Welcome everyone to this EU Clusters talk, this special edition this time where it's all about the C2Lab, the Cluster Collaboration Lab #2 in Lund, southern Sweden, on 21st and 22nd March. It's an in-person event, and what's great about it, among other things, is you get to do a tech safari. I'm excited about that. We're going to hear more about that, and it's during the Ecosystem Summit there in the area. And so this is one of the latest EU Clusters talks. It's a bi-weekly event of the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, the ECCP, on behalf of DG GROW at the European Commission. So what's the agenda today? We're going to first hear from the European Commission all about the C2 Lab. We'll see a video on the C2 Lab. We'll hear about the C2 Lab format, how it works, the funding opportunities, and then we'll hear some project pitches, almost like speed dating for you on different pitches, different projects, and you get to vote on them and we can connect you with them. And then of course, Q&A with you, from you. And so tech tips on that, the questions via the Q&A button at the bottom, or there's also that button at the bottom to raise your hand, and we can connect you and you can actually ask the question yourself. There's also the chat, and it's also good to watch the chat because there's always a lot of action going on there among us. Hashtag EU Clusters Talks for anything you hear that you'd like to tweet, and that would be great. I encourage you to do that. And this will be recorded for playback. So let's get started. A few introductory words from the European Commission, the aims and objectives of the C2 Lab, why the C2 Lab. Benoit Esman, Policy Officer, DG GROW. Why this lab?
Thank you very much, Chris, and good morning to everyone who is joining in this special edition of the EU Cluster Talk. And indeed, we thought that we should get a little bit didactic about the C2 Lab, the Cluster Collaboration Lab, because we got many feedbacks from different people who were interested, but were also hesitating to join the Cluster Collaboration Lab. So we thought it would be a good idea to have this EU Cluster Talk to kind of demystify a little bit what we meant by a cluster collaboration lab. You know that with the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, we have different type of events. We have the cluster meet regions, which are more to put clusters under the spotlight and to show how clusters have contributed at regional level to improve or to change the industrial landscape and contribute to the economic growth of the regions. We have also the EU Cluster Talks to provide you with these latest news on the cluster community. And with the Cluster Collaboration Lab, the idea was really to provide you with an opportunity as clusters, but also as cluster members like SMEs or research organizations, to meet together and to start discussing ideas. So we've heard that some people were hesitating because they think their project idea is not mature enough. And this is not an issue at all. I mean, that's exactly the purpose. I mean, it's to bring the collective intelligence of the participants to try to reflect together a little bit what are the main trends, what are the new opportunities, what are the challenges that we are facing together, and how clusters could help developing together a project that could be shown as an answer to those challenges. So it's really about boosting thematic collaboration between clusters or between SMEs being member of clusters. And so it's really this idea of a lab, of something where we can test ideas. And then we will be supported by the team of the ECCP, who will help you framing those project ideas, help you identifying the call for proposals to which you could apply. So it's really the start of the process, if I may say. So this Cluster Collaboration Lab aims at gathering people, launching a little bit of discussion about project ideas that we may develop together. And then, of course, there is the follow-up by the ECCP team. And the purpose, of course, and knowing also we have many upcoming events with the ECCP, would be then to try to make people connecting again, either during a cluster meet regions or during a matchmaking event. And we also want to use this first type of project discussion, let's say, to propose such ideas in the future matchmaking events that we will have in Košice or in Levi in Finland. And also because we will soon have the industrial Hannover Messe in Germany. So that's also an opportunity with these first project ideas to then try to attract other interested clusters, other interested SMEs that might contribute to such project ideas, to continue developing together, and then applying in the end into a call for proposal. We will also try to give you a bit of an overview of what are the funding opportunities, at least at European level, because we also notice that many of our stakeholders, industrial stakeholders, usually, well, they know they've already managed to get some EU funding for their projects, but they keep relying on the same pot of money, if I may say, while the galaxy of funding at EU level is quite large, maybe sometimes a bit also complicated to be aware of all the possibilities. So it's also one of the purpose of the Cluster Collaboration Lab to give you this idea, or to give you this opportunity to discover other type of funding, other programs where you could apply once the project idea is developed and mature enough and ready then to be submitted as a project proposal. But without further continuing on the explanation, I think the small video that we have will really give you a good explanation of what we are putting up for you. And I would like really also to thank Clusters of Sweden and Mobile Heights, which have been really putting things together to make this Cluster Collaboration Lab a really interesting event. And as you said before, Chris, the Tech Safari, I think, is really a good opportunity also for the participants to meet the local stakeholders in Lund. And so let's have this small video then. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's look at that video. Benoit, we'll hear you a little bit later on the financing opportunities. So yeah, let's take a look at the, oh, by the way, there is one of the people on, Dimitro, is in the city of Bucha. Welcome, Dimitro. And welcome to the rest of you who are in the chat there. Let's see the video.
Do you want to network and meet new potential collaboration partners? Do you want to share a project idea that could be developed with others? Then C2Lab is the right place for you. The C2Lab is an interactive workshop and co-creation space to develop project ideas with partners from different countries in Europe. You will meet new people and form working groups to build business cases for ideas to make the green and digital transition happen. Our facilitators at the lab help you team up with innovative organizations that bring different competences, skills, technologies, and visions. They will also guide the discussions to make the most of your time at the lab and look at potential financing sources for the project ideas. After the lab, we will continue to support you in the development of the projects. The next C2Lab will take place in Lund, Sweden on the 21st and the 22nd of March 2023 in the context of Sweden's Innovation Ecosystem Summit, where there are expected to be more than 500 participants. The lab is organised in collaboration with Clusters of Sweden and Mobile Heights, and it is open to cluster organisations, companies, research organisations, actors from the civil society, and other interested entities from the European Union and the SMP COSME countries. Cluster organisations are warmly invited to bring their members. Sweden is one of Europe's most innovative countries. You are invited to join a tech safari to visit companies and technology parks in Lund. That way, you learn more about the Swedish innovation ecosystem and can make new business contacts. This C2Lab will focus on project ideas related to energy transition and circular economy, two key pillars of the green transition, but there is also an open strand to submit your individual idea. Register now for the workshop and join the C2Lab discussion group on LinkedIn to make new connections and explore collaboration opportunities. You don't have an idea yet? No problem. Join the lab and we will look for synergies amongst the other participants. Don't miss this opportunity to connect and innovate through collaborative projects. We are looking forward to seeing you at the C2Lab.
All right, so that's barely 3 weeks away. So time to book your flights and make your reservations and register. Let's go to Nina Hoppmann, team member of the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. Nina, before you tell us about the how it works and why come to Sweden, there is a question from someone. Is there already a list available of clusters policymakers who will be present in Lund? If not, where and when will we be able to find that? That's from Mark Struyveld.
Thank you very much. I will now speak about a little bit about the topics that were already submitted and the industry presented. Since this is also a GDPR issue, we will ask in the registration whether you are fine with sharing your name and contact with other participants. So when you're registered, I think at the end of next week, we will share the, if we have a critical mass for the sharing the name and data with the registered participants, of course, publicly.
Okay.
But with the registered one, we will share it.
Okay, great. So how does this work? How does this lab work?
So as we've already seen in the video, I will not repeat the general aspects, but rather go into the agenda. As you've heard, we will have a tech safari to visit companies and technology parks in Lund and learn more about Swedish innovation companies. We will do that at the morning of the 21st of March, organized together with the Clusters of Sweden and the National Association of Science Parks. After the networking lunch, we will attend together the opening of the Sweden's Innovation Ecosystem Summit to learn about how innovation is developed in Sweden, what is the agenda, who are the actors, what are the main lines. And then in the afternoon, we will go into our room, let's say, of the C2Lab, look and start the process to quickly introduce, of course, ourselves, the participants, what are the project ideas, so that you all know who is there at the C2Lab, also in person. Since we will discuss public funding today, and in an input paper, we will have someone to talk about private investments or how investment is done in a region, as an example, from a speaker from Tech Invest Skåne. And then we, at the end of the first day, we will initiate already the working group phase, so that on the second day, on the 22nd, which will be completely dedicated to developing those project ideas, you are already teamed up with the people you're interested in working with. So the working group phases are the dominant elements of the second day agenda. Plus, as this 22nd, we will also have a clusters talk like this one on interregional collaboration. We invite you to watch that with us, together to have breakfast and start the day with the EU clusters talk together. And it was, as was already said in the video, after these 2 days at Lund themselves, we will continue to support you, catch up with you via email or follow-up meetings to see how you are developing your project ideas, whether you need any support in relation to either competences you're still missing, partners, financial schemes that you can look into, or any other question related to the further development, which hopefully after these 2 days you will continue working on with your teams over time.
Okay, great.
So in the working groups, of course, after getting to know each other, we have the idea, of course, to discuss synergies, common opportunities among yourselves. Some of these discussions have already started informally between confirmed participants, so this is great, and we will continue to do so with everybody at the lab. Look at the different options to achieve your common goals, discuss market opportunities, return of investment, and determine the concrete activities. So the key pillars of the project of what you want to do. And this is very flexible. We will have our facilitators that you see here, all leaders of cluster networks in the country, very experienced cluster practitioners who will be at the lab and who will support you and guide you through their development. So depending on how far the individual groups get, we can discuss until resources and involvement of partners, milestone, desired financial sources, and of course the next steps to develop the projects. And as said, this is a flexible approach depending on, of course, the maturity of the idea you already come with. Some you might start at a different point, or also the number of people that you want to collaborate with. And to already tease a bit who, what kind of topics and industries were present until now, we've heard the overarching topics are energy transition and circular economy, but there are also ideas submitted around New European Bauhaus, wood and furniture, two that we are going to hear later from the participants. Agri-food, we are also going to hear about that. We have people from manufacturing, from telecommunications, working on data privacy, on blue economy and water management. We're also going to hear about that in a minute. Waste to energy and mobility and transport. So I think many different options for the participants here, and we will look for synergies either within the ecosystems or cross ecosystems, depending on the interests. And for the question of why coming to Sweden, I will hand over to colleagues from Clusters of Sweden, Carolina, to continue.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Nina. Let's go over to Carolina Garces, project manager of Mobile Heights. That's an ICT cluster in Lund. You're also with Clusters of Sweden. Yes, Carolina, what more can you tell us?
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris, and good morning, everyone. Today, I would like to start this presentation by inviting you all on behalf of Clusters of Sweden and Mobile Heights to visit us in Lund and to participate in the C2Labs. You will get the opportunity to learn more about the Sweden innovation ecosystem and more specifically about Skåne and Lund, where we will have the C2Lab. When it comes to the Sweden innovation ecosystem, it is important to say that Sweden has been consistently ranked as one of the top innovative economies in Europe. And this is a result of several factors that foster innovation and business creation, like the long-term focus on education and research, as well as the high expenditure and R&D activities. And Sweden has also well-defined regional strategies that are favorable policies for entrepreneurship and innovation. And of course, cluster organizations play a fundamental role in the innovation ecosystem. And this good innovative performance of the Sweden is also reflected at the regional level, where Skåne, where we will have C2Labs in the south of Sweden, is ranked number 9 in Europe. So we have a very strategic location, and historically it has been an important center of trade and commerce. And as you may know, the Baltic Sea region can be regarded as an important economic hub in the northern and eastern Europe. When it comes to the Swedish Innovation Ecosystem Summit, C2Labs will be in this context of this big event. It is called Innovationsriksdag in Swedish. And this is the annual meeting arena that connects all Sweden innovation ecosystem and is organized by the Swedish Incubators and Science Parks. So these events will bring together national and regional innovation actors, policymakers, entrepreneurs, academia, and also civil society. And the aim with this event is to exchange knowledge and experiences in regards to business development, innovation management, and also how to foster innovation together. We are expecting around 500 participants during this event, and you, through C2Labs, will have the opportunity, several networking opportunities. We'll have some lunch together, some fika together, and also a dinner together. So it's a very good opportunity to meet our Swedish actors. I also would like to welcome to Lund, where C2Labs will take place. We are located in the southern part of Sweden, crossing the Øresund bridge that connects Denmark with Sweden. And it has a very easy access to the Copenhagen airport. It's located only 20 minutes from Malmö, so you can also visit that city. And the Øresund region is an important hub for economic activity in Scandinavia. It is also a well-known example for European cross-border collaboration. And this city is very well influenced by the Lund University that attracts a lot of talents and research and large companies. It's one of the largest universities in the Nordics and ranks among 100 universities in the world. And of course, during the C2Labs, you will get to know also the important intermediary actors like the accelerators and cluster organizations like Mobile Heights, Backbridge, and the Livsmedel Academy that is working within the food sector. They will be there also together with other Swedish clusters that will come to Lund. And we will have the tech safari. I think that you were curious about that, Chris.
Yes, absolutely.
We are very excited about that because you will have the opportunity through C2Labs to visit our innovation ecosystem in Lund. We are very proud about, for example, Max 4, which is a laboratory that provides high quality X-ray light for research materials in life science, nanoscience, and nuclear physics. You will also have the opportunity to go to the European Spallation Source, which is a multidisciplinary research facility, and it's based on the world's most powerful neutron source, enabling research related to materials, energy, health, and environment. And in Lund, we also have the Medicom Village, that is the house of a lot of companies and entrepreneurs on life science from the entire health chain. And of course, large companies like Access Communication, Alfa Laval, Tetra Pak, Volvo Cars, Sony, Ericsson, and many more that you can read in your screen. So with these words, I welcome you again to visit us in Lund in Sweden and to participate in C2Labs.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Carolina, and thank you, Nina. Yeah, you can see those companies. They're big companies, but they're also smaller companies. I like that name, Brainlit. And Elon Road. That's quite interesting. And so we discovered Lund. Most people, I guess, they know about Malmö, but Lund is right outside of Malmö, and I'm just discovering that with all of you now. Let's move on to the funding opportunities. Let's get Benoit back, and we'll also be hearing from Valentino Izzo, program coordination manager at EISMEA. That's the European Innovation Council and SME's Executive Agency. So kick it off, I guess, Benoit, with the funding opportunities.
Yes, indeed, and hello again. So with this very small window regarding funding opportunities, the idea is not to map all the funding opportunities that we have at EU level, because it would then take more than 1 hour of the EU cluster talk to go through all the different programs and opportunities. But it's just to give you a kind of appetizer, just to give you a little taste, a little flavor of what are the different funding opportunities, and maybe also to raise awareness about some programs that maybe you have never heard of, or programs you are not really familiar with. As I said, I mean, at EU level, at least, with the different policies that we have, and although they are all contributing to the main objective of the von der Leyen Commission, so about the Green Deal, about a Europe, an economy that works for people, etc., we have different, let's say, sectoral policies, and almost each of those policies have their own funding programs. So we can totally, I think, acknowledge that for the outside people, it's somehow difficult to find their way, or at least it's difficult to be aware of all the possibilities. And that's why we want to help you with the Cluster Collaboration Lab also to discover other types of funding that maybe, well, you didn't know about. Again, we are not going to go through the whole range here during this introduction, but just be aware that in preparation also of the Cluster Collaboration Lab in Lund, the ECCP is preparing an input paper, which will go deeper and which will help you to have, let's say, on paper, or at least on digital, but the overview of different sources of funding that are available. So even if you are not participating in person to the C2Lab in Lund, please go on the ECCP, and it's a document worth to have, I think, so that you can look at. And also, depending on your field of activities, you might see new things that you want to explore. I also mentioned on the slide that there is no one-size-fits-all approach, in the sense that sometimes also you might have a project idea which doesn't really fit into, let's say, the usual program. Let's take Horizon, for instance, and your project idea doesn't really fit into what Horizon is supporting at the moment. It's not necessarily an issue because then you might be encouraged to move further away to other types of program to have that idea funded, or at least to rework it a little bit so that it fits within the eligibility condition of the other program. So it's really, and I stress this again, it's really about having this kind of bottom-up approach. Instead of taking the overall program dimension and the funding which is linked to the program, we want to discuss with you as stakeholders, with you as SMEs, to see what kind of project ideas you have, how we could put people together, and then to better identify the sources of funding you should be applying to. So if we could move to the next slide. I just wanted to give here a very small overview of two cross-border cooperation programs, but which are covering both the south of Sweden and the Skåne region. So as you can see, under the Baltic Sea region, it's a wider area which covers also Finland, the Baltic countries, Poland, and part of Germany. If we look at Interreg South Baltic, it's more, let's say, a level below, with a smaller area to be covered by this program. But you can see, and I'm not going to go through every single of the measures that are being funded under those programs, but just to show you that circular economy, energy transition, digitalization, of course, are those kind of usual topics that you may find in all the programs. So if you are already from that region, if you have partners in that region, that's already one opportunity that you may look at, those Interreg programs. If we look at the next slide, we wanted there also to give you a kind of a fresh news, because you may have heard already about the single market program, and the new annual working program of this single market program has been approved last week. So you can see the specific objective of the single market program on top of the slide. And just to mention a few things, we have also new actions which are now being put in this annual work program, which will specifically target agri-food. So we will have a special call for agri-food clusters that will be launched later in 2023. We have also specific actions on skills for the textile ecosystem, for proximity and social economy. We also have an affordable housing initiative which would help some of your members maybe to get involved, and the European Solar Academy. So you can see that it covers a wide range of different topics. And again, the purpose is not to go in details for every single of them, but just to inform you about what's coming up next. And I will give the floor to Valentino, which will be a little bit more accurate, if I may say, than me, in going a bit more into details about some opportunities that are already planned for the future.
Okay, great. Thanks, Benoit. On to Valentino.
Thank you, Benoit. Thanks, Chris. I don't know if I will be more accurate, but good morning, everybody. So Chris kindly introduced myself. I'm a program coordination manager at ESMEA. ESMEA is the agency that deals with and manages the implementation of several EU funding programs. And today I want to a bit guide you through to three of them. Starting maybe from the SMP program, which is managed within my unit. Also, I will show you first this call, not only because it's from the SMP program, work program 23 that Benoit just mentioned, but also because it's very fresh. It's a very fresh call, meaning that it was published yesterday, so probably most of you didn't see it yet. It may be linked to the open topic in Lund, because it's linked with the objective is to increase the resilience of the industrial ecosystems in Europe as well. The main objective is, as you see from the title, is to support Ukrainian companies to integrate into the single market, but this will in turn benefit both the Ukrainian economy, but also the European economy that was heavily affected by the war. So by, for example, facilitating the identification of new market opportunities for European companies. So this is done mainly indirectly. So basically this call will select, the deadline is on 28th of April. This call will select a consortium composed of members from current or former members from the Europe Enterprise Network, current or former members of the Erasmus for Young Entrepreneurs, members of the ECCP that are profiled as national cluster associations or meta clusters and cluster networks, and members from the Ukrainian Cluster Alliance. So this consortium will actually support, facilitate, and support Ukrainian SMEs that have suffered difficulties, disruptions from the war. Those that are in Ukrainian territories under the control of Ukrainian authorities, but also those that have been displaced and are maybe in Europe. If we go to the next slide. The second instrument I wanted to mention that is very relevant, I think, especially for the C2Lab in Lund, is the Interregional Innovation Investments, so the so-called I3 instrument. This is a program that is funded under the ERDF funds. The main objective is to provide advisory and financial support to interregional investments, so to interregional projects that bring together innovation actors in shared smart specialization areas and EU value chains. The focus is very much on investments, and it provides, the objective is to provide the tools to innovation actors coming from the quadruple helix to bring their innovations to a mature level, so ready for commercialization and for scale up. So here the focus is on high TRL levels, so starting at level 6. If we go on the next slides, this program is focused on 3 strengths, 3 thematic areas. So it's one of the characteristics is therefore that it aligns the S3 priorities of the various regions with the top EU priorities, so digital transition, green transition, and smart manufacturing. For example, under green transition, you could imagine under this scope, there are investments, for example, in the decarbonization in smart cities, alternative fuel, sustainable transport, recycled materials, in particular construction materials, plastics and textile, and so on and so forth. So these are all relevant for the C2Lab in Lund. And there are 3 intervention logic, 3 strands. You don't have now the time to go into each single strand and the various details, but there are 3 upcoming calls. There is one call, the call strand 2B, which is currently open but will close in 1 week time. And is the one on capacity building. There will be a next one probably in October this year. But there are 2 upcoming calls, so 2 upcoming meaning Q2 of this year, probably in June. So one for strand 1 and one for strand 2A. These are 2 strands aiming on establishing globally competitive EU value chains in strand 1 case, or in developing value chains in less developed regions. Then if we go to the next slide, the I3 instrument is quite complementary to another instrument which is funded under the Horizon Europe program, which is the European Innovation Ecosystems. Here in this program, there are several calls, the one you see in light blue, that are very much linked with the objectives and the main actions, challenges of the European innovation agenda, as you see on this slide. The main difference is between this and the I3 call is that I3 is focused on investments, and this one is mainly to facilitate and the aim is to facilitate the creation of European innovation valleys, so to facilitate an environment that is conducive to innovation. If we go to the next slide, I will only quickly show one of these calls, and it's upcoming, is planned at the moment, is planned to be open on the 8th of June this year, and is the on the topic stimulating experimentation practices. So this one aims at addressing the tension that exists between breakthrough innovation and regulatory framework. So the aim is to improve the innovation framework conditions. So applicants will have to identify an area where innovative solutions emerge. It could be an area where that is hampered by existing regulation, or where there is unregulation. And then they will come up with an action plan for setting up experimentation space, and they will implement it. So meaning, for example, test beds, regulatory sandbox, and live labs, etc., etc. It's maybe interesting for Lund because in Sweden you have all strong innovator region or innovation leader regions, and in this call you'll need to have a mix. The consortium must be a mix of both strong and innovation leader or moderate and emerging regions. And this is in a nutshell all I wanted to present, but maybe if we scroll down the next slides, there are more opportunities, sectorial opportunities for you to look into. And as you will see from the slides that then will be shared with you, you can have a look into different upcoming Horizon calls that TCCP kindly collected for us. This is just a sample list. And this is all from my side, and I give you back the floor, Chris. Thank you very much.
Great, Valentino. Thank you so much. That's a lot of good information for all of us. And just to answer quickly one question in the chat, Dominique asking, is this a face-to-face or virtual also? It's Lund is going to be only face-to-face. And the other question from Dimitri in the Q&A, and please do send in your questions through the Q&A, through the chat, raise your hand if you want, all those buttons at the bottom you can see. From Dimitri, is there a guide to explain how to get from the Copenhagen airport to Lund? Nina, quickly, is there, I guess there must be something online that shows people how to get there, right?
Yes, we have prepared information on that. The colleagues from Clusters of Sweden know very well how to do that. We send this information to the participants, yes.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on, and please do ask your questions. Project ideas. These are the pitches. This is the pitch moment, the speed dating moment, where we're going to hear from 4 different pitches. Anna Rosenqvist, you can see that on the list there. Jorge Lopez Conde, Douglas Almquist, and Francisco Vigalondo. So this is how it works. They will make their pitches, and then you can vote. So there is going to be a Slido poll. There it is. And you listen to the pitches. And if you particularly like one, why don't you vote for that? And we can help connect you with that project afterward. So, and of course, there will be Q&A after all this, so you can ask your questions to the panelists and also to the commission if you want, or to any of us. So let's start with Anna Rosenqvist, Interior Cluster Sweden. Anna, you got, let's cue that up. Anna, you've got 5 minutes. Each of you has 5 minutes. Interior Cluster Sweden, Anna Rosenqvist, go ahead.
Thank you, Chris. I'd like to invite you to collaborate and further develop a project idea that I have, and I have it together with the university, Linnaeus University, located in Växjö, Kalmar, which is not so far away from Lund. Just short first, a little bit about about us. The Interior Cluster Sweden, it's a non-profit organization, and it consists of 114 members, which is furniture producers, well-known brands associated with Swedish design, and it's also sub-suppliers, academies, and municipalities where these manufacturers are located. And we do hold a cluster management silver label certificate, which we're very proud of. A large part of these manufacturing industries are, as you see, geographically located in the south part of Sweden. And the development of the industry collaborates very well with regional development. And I just want you to know that IKEA of Sweden's development center is located in the middle of all those black dots there. So there is a long tradition of producing furniture in this region. The cluster organization, which is me and 5 project managers, we have the ambition to support the members. And we do that in areas like competence development and also internationalization. And we do it through innovative business development projects, and that's what I'm going to show you. And we want to create products and projects with activities that generates growth and sustainable profit for the member companies, because that's what it's actually all about. Otherwise, the members will not participate in the projects. So that's why we always have them. They are the ones that comes first in all our priorities. So if we then go to the next slide, as I said in the beginning, I have a product idea, but it needs to be further developed. And at the moment, we call it Furniture and Interior Design for the Future. And the acronym is then FIF. But what is it about then? It's about guiding the European furniture and interior industry to become global, competitive, green, digital, and resilient, of course. And for me and for the Swedish industry, it's about staying high performing. The ambition now and in the project would then be to work interdisciplinary and to set knowledge in motion across subject boundaries, not only stay in different pillars. We want to take a multifaceted approach to the 4 societal changes or challenges which we're all aware of. So the Swedish partners that I have together with me is, of course, except the 100 SMEs, it is different center of excellences, innovation centers and science parks. And it is also 4 professors with knowledge environments at, as I said, Linnaeus University, but also University in Jönköping, Chalmers in Gothenburg, and Carl Malmsten Studies in Linköping's University. Now, for those of you who don't work with furniture, some of these words might not be obvious, but for the ones in the furniture business, you all know who Carl Malmsten is. And all of these professors and all the people I gathered in my consortium, they have passion for the challenges that we have in front of us, but also an interest of joining the transformation, the journey that needs to be done. And of course, having sustainable development goal number 12, responsible consumption and production in focus. So we're looking for calls or funding and international partners. And we want those partners to have capacity and interest of supporting and writing an application, and also be part in leading it together with me and the other Swedes. And remember that it's about the SMEs and its growth and its sustainable profit for the companies. So the last slide I have, I will not focus so much on it, but because we are all aware, as Chris said to me before, we are all aware of the challenges we have in front of it. It's about green, it's about digital and advanced materials, because we have to stop using materials not good for us or the planet. And of course, it is about business development and innovational processes. So I will end there and give the floor back to Chris to see what you have in mind.
Wow, fantastic. Anna, you're right on time. 5 minutes. That's fantastic. Perfect. Great pitch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And hopefully there are people voting in for your project. Hopefully there are questions on that as well. Let's move on to Jorge Lopez Conde, architect. Jorge, you're working on a new European Bauhaus project.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you all very much. I'm very excited to be here and to be able to meet you in Lund, of course. I'm Jorge López Conde, architect and the coordinator or technical director of the Cluster for European Bauhaus. It's a working group in Spain. During the last 2 years, the European Bauhaus has been developed with great success in Spain. In fact, Spain is the country with the most proposals in all areas of the European Bauhaus. And to channel this energy, and after many conversations and proposals, we have found a beautiful line of work that I presented to you today. And this is the Clusters for European Bauhaus in Spain. It's a new association or consortium or working group of Spanish clusters that work in a transversal and multidisciplinary way with the European Bauhaus and the circular construction, especially in the transition pathways of the construction ecosystem. The group is composed by 11 clusters. It's a very strong group that encompasses and reaches many very interesting areas of work. They occupy the entire national geography and all the cross-cutting areas of the Bauhaus and the value chain of the good and all of the scales of companies and works with special projects. For example, the 11 clusters is related around the next names. Aclima, the eco-industry and environment services and products. AID, housing and habitat and efficient construction cluster. Ambit, environment. BCD, Barcelona Design Cluster, Galician Good Cluster, Asturian Cluster of Circular Economy, Circular Construction and Zero Emissions, Basque Association of Knowledge Industries and Applied Technologies, AVIC, Equipment, Furniture and Design Cluster, Cluster of Innovative Companies in the Toy Valley, for kids, of course, and children's, Navarra Association for the Industrialization of Construction Sector. It's a very transversal and transscalar group, and we are preparing a grand program that works with technical feasibility studies to prepare projects and consortiums. This framework program for research and innovation has different approaches that we are defining. Some of the lines of and themes and tools we are working on are related in this slide. We are working around circular and social and silver economy. It's very important for us, the social inclusion and the territorial cohesion and the population areas in Europe. Health, of course, and the house of the future related to health. Circular construction and furniture. We are working with different tools like living labs, indoor living labs, or sandbox, regulatory sandbox. Of course, wood is a transversal material for us. We are working with other nature and bio-based materials, with neuromarketing, with robotics, of course, and related to all scales of the population, no? From children to silver economy. We are working, of course, with all the levels certification. We are very interested in the European Bauhaus label, and of course other tools like BIM, etc. The projects ranging from specific training centers to national congresses and forums is very transversal. It's a unique, we have a unique center at the European level that works with interior spaces as a laboratory to evaluate and help design at all scales. We have other interesting projects, for example, developed in Galicia with a very radical idea. If good is health, let's design health centers with good. for example. This proposal was presented to the first horizon of the European Bauhaus convocatory in the last year. And we work on and propose two concepts that the European Bauhaus has integrated: the European Bauhaus label and the sandbox regulatory. This is very important tools for us. And of course, the idea of the wooden house, of social and territorial balance with the wooden house, and of course, the bioeconomy. 100 years ago, the Bauhaus proposed the house of the future. A future that can work with all the above and celebrate the anniversary of one of the most important questions for us. What should be the house of the future? We could make the house of the future using all of our knowledge right now. We can construct the house of the future with biomaterials and nature-based materials. Will we find new autonomous houses like those proposed by Buckminster Fuller, but in wood, for example? Can we use the bioeconomy, the good value chain, or bio-based, bio-natural materials, the European Bauhaus certifications, the living labs and sandboxes to build the house of the European future? Can we help to build that house in Ukraine with them? And this is the last question. And I hope we can work together to develop this type of projects and proposals with you. Thank you very much.
Jorge, muchas gracias. I love that idea about Bauhaus. Mies van der Rohe would probably be very proud of what we want to do with that concept of taking not only people, but also planet in mind when we design the house of the future. Let's move on to Douglas Almquist of Livs Medelakademien of Lund. That's cooperation between food business, academia, and society for innovative, competitive, and sustainable food industry. Functional food. That's very intriguing to me, Douglas.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, and good morning, Europe. So we are a cluster organization focused towards the food chain. Our members are mainly focused in the food industry. And as a cluster organization, we of course have the businesses, the universities, and the government entities. But our projects that we run, and we are very project focused, are in the entire food chain. Next slide, please. So the food chain, it's long and it's really complicated. And I don't think anybody really covers and grasps the entire chain. Our ambition is to run projects that go through the entire chain, focusing on specific issues. So here you can see some of the projects that we're running at the moment. The first two are national. The third is regional, and the fourth is a Baltic Sea initiative. The first one we're focusing on malnutrition among the elderly. And I myself was surprised when I found out that this is not at all unusual. We have a fairly wealthy nation, and still we have elderly that are suffering from malnutrition. So getting them to eat the right things and having the right things for them to eat is a focus there. The second project we're running is preventive health, where there is a connection to functional food. It's sort of a preemptive strike on sickness. If you're eating the right food, you're less in risk of getting these societal illnesses such as diabetes connected to obesity and so on. So the second project is a broad project to look at what can we do to help people eat the right food. The third is more focused, and it's concerning green proteins and beans, and how we can make the connection between the farms and the consumer in that area. And the fourth is a Baltic Sea initiative we're working with, which is both working with security issues and sustainability issues. So this just to show you some of the things we are doing. Next slide, please. This is one example of a project that we are trying to or are building and where we want partners and ideas. It's looking at the costs of not eating the right kind of food and how we would quantify that. And the costs that they end up in different parts, in the hospitals, the healthcare system, and so on. So we want to collaborate with European partners in working on cost models for calculating the cost of this question. Next slide, please. Another one connecting the chain is to as we've been in on, fostering healthy eating habits in a European perspective, looking at how this differs in different countries and different cultures, and better understanding what tools different governments are using to encourage people eating the right food. So here we're quite open to different kind of inputs. And as this concerns the whole chain, the food chain, it involves everybody from the farm to the fork. So there's an opening here for different kind of competences to help us understand this really complex issue. We have a couple of other sort of project ideas we're working with, but are definitely open to jumping onto other people's ideas if it fits sort of the food chain idea. I think I'll stop there.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Douglas. There's somebody Dominique is interested in connecting with you. Dominique, by the way, you can vote on that via the Slido if you want to also connect that way. So do please keep that Slido in mind, all of you, for one of the projects that you particularly are interested in. Okay, let's move on to our last pitch from Francisco Vigalondo, representative of the Aragon exterior in Brussels. You have to do with maritime and marine sector, the blue economy. Let's hear about that, Francisco.
Thank you very much, Chris, and good morning, everybody. Yes, I am working for Aragon Exterior. This is a regional agency in Spain for the Aragon government. But in fact, today, let me introduce the Water Smart Territories. Water Smart Territories is a S3 partnership in the S3 platform. And for those who are not familiar with this is a kind of interregional cooperation that is managed by the GRC in Sevilla and is linked to the structural funds for the different regions and countries. The particularity of Water Smart Territories is that this is led by 3 regional clusters in Europe. DREAM from Central Val de Loire, and the Water Alliance from the Northern Netherlands provinces, and Sinai, that is our cluster of water in Aragon. The focus of Water Smart Territories is on sustainable water management and in regional innovation ecosystems. So if that is the first aim for us today, as you can see in our map, we are now 23 partner regions, but we have also members from the Baltic area, but we have not at this moment members from Denmark or Sweden. So this is one of the aims to participate in Lund, that maybe to attract stakeholders and clusters in particular to our partnership. Let me also explain that these kind of partnerships are free, and they are only one thematic partnership in the platform. So this is the only partnership on water or also marine or maritime thematics related to circularity water. And we will be represented by the Francis Bertrand from the France Water in France. So let me just also to be what we are now working in the water smart territories. The next step, please. Yeah. So at this moment we are going a step forward in the new European Innovation Agenda. That is also the communication from the Commission last year. And we try to implement the new approaches that the Commission are presenting us, and in particular the Partnership for Regional Innovation. That is a new approach in a multi-level perspective, and in which we try to link global challenges, like in our case, the European mission to restore oceans and waters, and also with this place-based approach that the clusters as the best example. But in our case in particular, the challenge is also to deal with the diversity of needs. And of course, another need is how to create synergistic funding to stimulate the connection between the resource of research and innovation with the investments and the implementation to the economy. This is important also that in this PRI approach, that is not only focused on growth and jobs, it's focused on sustainability. Next slide, please. Sorry, yeah, okay. So you can see now here about these synergies, and as also today Benoit Esman told us, said that this is not only Horizon that is the only funded program, they are also the kind of programs, and in particular, maybe all of them can contribute to this connection between the structural funds, Horizon and structural funds, but we need also consider the different particularities of each program. So in our case, we are particularly interested in, as clusters, in developing the projects and proposals for the European innovation ecosystem that will be open in June and has been also mentioned today, and also the new program, the I3. And in the case of I3, we have a first successful experience in the field of hydrogen, but now we know that this is a very intensive pre-work that need to develop a very good proposal. And that's why our intention or aims to participate in Lund, maybe to this connect with new members for our partnership, and also to develop proposals for one of these programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Francisco. Also on time. Fantastic. All of you were 5 minutes. Really great. I notice, are there any questions that the viewers would like to ask? Also, you're invited to vote on that Slido poll. Maybe we should put up that Slido poll again for anyone who would like to vote for any of the speakers. So there you go. You got the, you can either join onlineslido.com with that hashtag, or just hold your phone up and you can vote with that QR code. I see that Douglas is saying that the work around the food chain also has a big sustainable focus, and plus an ICT focus to understand the complex chain from farm to fork. Obviously, that also includes environment and saving the Baltic, which I was at a conference on that. So that's also very important. Also to what Francisco is doing in terms of water quality and saving the seas. So there's a lot of interconnection here. Well, I think barring any further questions, would any of the speakers like to say one final word, or maybe one final word from from Benoit, inviting all of you to Lund?
I will leave the last word for Carolina, because I see
Carolina, yes, I see her raising her hand. Yes, Carolina. invite us once
Yes,
again.
yes,
Lund.
of course. I want to invite you, but first I would like to do a clarification because we have gotten some questions about the Sweden Innovation Summit that I mentioned,
Yes.
and that actually you will find the link in our webpage. When you click there, of course, this is an event that we have here in Sweden, very big event. And it appears that you have to pay. But if you join the C2Lab, you have to register in the C2Lab and you don't have to pay. This is free of charge event, and you will be part of the first day of the Sweden Innovation Summit, but you don't have to register there. So it's enough that you register in the C2Lab, so you don't have to pay. So
Okay.
yeah, and again, welcome to Lund in Sweden. We're waiting for you.
Great. Fantastic. I think we can wrap it up at this point if there are no further questions from the audience. Yes, please do come to Lund. This is the wrapping up the special EU Clusters Talk, this bi-weekly event by the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, ECCP, on behalf of DG GROW at the European Commission. Please do join our ECCP discussion group. Keep in mind the next talks, including the C2Lab discussion group. This is recorded. There will be a report on this clusters talk, and keep in mind the hashtag EU Clusters Talks. If you want to cast wider what we're talking about, I think it's very, very important for as many people to know about this C2Lab in Lund. I'm Chris Burns. Thank you very much for being with us, and see you next time.